So, hi everybody. Today we'll be talking about mindset shift, which means transforming negative thought patterns. So, the things that we'll be covering today is a short introduction about me and about the topic. Then we'll understand what are negative thought patterns and how do they arise. Then, in the next topic, we talk about the role of mindset shifts on emotional and mental well-being. Then we cover hypnotherapy and how hypnotherapy is going to help in mindset shift. Then we come to the practical tools wherein I'll be sharing a few techniques which might help you with the negative thought patterns. And then we leave with a few final thoughts about the topic. So, coming to the first part, I am Jinkal Ravaria and I am the founder of Nirvikalp Therapy. I am a REBT psychotherapist, and apart from that, I am also a hypnotherapist specializing in anxiety, stress, and depression. So, after finishing my master's degree, I was very confused on what I should do. And I had so many interests, like I wanted to pursue acupressure, acupuncture, mudra therapy, because that is what I do as well. So I wanted to support both the mind and the body. And that is when I landed into hypnotherapy. And once I started that course, I felt a very intense connection with it because it gave me a sense of direction, purpose, and I felt that it is a very powerful tool to help others. And I also know that traditional talk therapy is very important, but sometimes when we are talking about deep patterns that are holding us back, it is very difficult to get over it just with the traditional therapy. And hypnotherapy works at a deeper level. So it helps with the shift, it helps with shifting the thoughts, the beliefs, the emotions that live in our subconscious level. And of course, we'll be talking about hypnotherapy in detail later on. So, to sum it up, for me, hypnotherapy became a bridge between what we know and what we feel. And I knew that this was the work that I was meant to do. Then, so what does mindset shift mean to me? So, for me, mindset shift means changing the way you look at something. And I know that it sounds very easy, but it is not that simple. So people always say that, perspective is everything. And I've learned how true that is. So, for example, think about somebody who has just been through a breakup. So their daily life routine stays the same. For example, they may sleep, they may eat, they may go to work, but emotionally everything feels very different. The emotional lens with which they look at the world becomes very much different. So the world looks dull, and things that once made them happy and brought them joy now feels empty. So one of the most favorite quote that I have, like, that I like and that I love is that even the hardest day only has 24 hours. So even the hardest day, it will pass. It is going to pass. So the main question arises, do you want to spend that time suffering, or can you shift your mindset and outlook for small moments of comfort, meaning, or peace? So for me, a mindset shift isn't about pretending everything is fine. It's about choosing how I respond even when things are not fine. And transforming mindset shift has been such a central work for me because I was a part of this. I was a part of negative thought patterns. I used to overthink a lot when I was young. My mind would go in circles, analyzing each and every detail until I felt completely drained. And it took me years to break out of that cycle. And that is why this work means so much to me. It's not just something that I have studied, but something that I have lived. So for me, it is not something that I just want to do in order to help people. I want people to know what the freedom that I felt once I broke this chain of negative thought patterns. And I know the kind of peace and clarity that is possible when you start to shift those patterns. So, this is a very much important work that I do, and that is why I love doing this. And that is why I chose to specialize in anxiety, stress, and depression. So, let's talk about what are negative thought patterns. So, firstly, negative thought patterns are automatic. So, it's like you won't even realize that, you are thinking about this and you have had so many conversation within a minute. So, negative thought patterns are automatic thoughts that pop into our mind and we don't even notice it. They are usually illogical, sometimes bizarre, and sometimes they are way more extreme than the situation really calls for. So these thoughts are shaped by our past experiences or our current habits or the fear that we might have about the future. They uh, they often repeat in patterns. For example, I might these thoughts are shaped by our past, so I might have certain experiences in my past. So I after a few situations and after analyzing these thoughts, I might find a very similar pattern, that is, I don't want to be alone. That is fear of being alone or thinking that I am not good enough. So in therapy, we usually have three types of negative thought patterns. So the first one is distorted thoughts. So these thoughts are something that are completely irrational. For example, I am a failure. And this this is what we call completely irrational because I know that I've only failed once and that is why I must be a total failure. Then the second one is accurate but unfair conclusions or distorted conclusions. So over here, I'll take the example of I couldn't help my friend, so I must be a bad person. Over here, I couldn't help my friend would be accurate. Maybe I was not able to help my friend. But the conclusion that I made that I am a bad person. So the conclusion is not fair, like it's distorted. So that is why we name this thought as accurate but distorted conclusion. Now the third type is valid but dysfunctional. So the example here is I have so much work to do. And that may be true that it is valid. I have a lot on my plate. But by dysfunctional, I mean that after thinking that I have so much of work to do, I might just procrastinate everything or I might feel overwhelmed that, oh my God, I have so much to do. I don't know what to do. So that is why the third thing is valid but dysfunctional. Now, when we talk about these negative thought patterns, as we spoke about earlier, that they are mainly due to our past experiences or present habits or fear of future. So these patterns are something that we have learned over time since a long amount of years. So since these patterns are learned, it means that these patterns can also be unlearned. So why do we stay stuck in the mental loop? So most people stay stuck in this negative thought pattern because they never slow down and notice them. We are always very busy, working, running errands, caring for others. And sometimes when we have those quiet moments by ourselves, we always fill them with distractions or we find more things to do which might make us occupy because we don't want to waste our time. But what we are really doing here is that we are avoiding being alone with our own thoughts. One of the most powerful emotional skill is learning to sit in stillness, to be okay with silence and boredom. Because when we are in that stillness, sitting in silence and boredom, that is when we finally hear what our mind is trying to tell us. So until we slow down, we are just going through the motions without realizing our thoughts. Awareness doesn't come from doing more, it comes from slowing down and simply noticing it. And until we pause, we are just surviving, not healing. Now, when we are talking about awareness, why do people always tell us that awareness is the first step? So, let's take an example of negative thought patterns as a dark room. Whenever, imagine yourself that you are stuck in a dark room. So, what happens when you're stuck in a dark room? You can't see clearly and you don't know uh, where the exit is. So, suppose that you are stuck in this dark room. What is the first thing that you can do? We might, since we can't find the exit and we don't know what to do, we might look for the light switch and turn on the light switch. So, until and unless you don't turn on the light, you can't find the door. So, for us, awareness is this light. And awareness, if you don't pause and become aware of your thoughts, you'll keep walking in circles. Awareness is not the final step, but awareness is the first and most powerful step because you can't change what you can't see. Now, coming to the next topic, which is what happens when you shift your mindset. So, as we took the example above of the dark room. So, when someone tells me, like whenever I have a session with somebody and they tell me that I feel like I'm stuck in a dark room, the first thing I tell them is to look for the light. And what is the most beautiful part to look for the light instead of for the door? So, when they look for the light, they go and look for the light, they turn the light on, and when the light is on, you can finally see the room clearly. The fear starts to calm down. You stop stumbling around and you're no longer guessing what is happening. You begin to feel steady again. And that kind of clarity, that shift, and how you see things, that is what builds emotional strength. So, over here, what we are doing is we are not running away from the problem. We are not looking for the door and running away from the dark room. We are facing our fear. We are being in the dark room and trying to look for a way out. And for example, suppose that in future the client finds himself or herself in a dark room again. Since they have found the light previously, they'll be able to find the light after, like in the second time, for the second time as well. And that gives you so much of confidence, that gives you peace. The problems might still be there, but now you know how you can handle the problem. So shifting your mindset doesn't mean life suddenly becomes perfect. It means that it doesn't control you anymore. So you let your awareness guide you, and that changes everything. So, what are some common misconceptions about mindset shifts? One of the biggest misconception about mindset shift is that it happens instantly. It can happen overnight. Like you decide to think differently and suddenly everything gets better. But it doesn't work like that. Let's go back to that example of dark room. So imagine that you find the light switch and you turn it on. And just because you've found the light switch and you've turned it on doesn't mean that everything in the room becomes magically perfect. You might still have to move through carefully. You might have to watch out for things in your way and eventually find your door. So, the light, your awareness, it's just the beginning. The real change comes from the steps you take afterwards. And that takes a lot of time and efforts. Then, coming on to the second myth. So, another myth is that once you shift your mindset, you'll never have the negative thoughts again. So, that's like expecting the light in the room to stay on forever without you doing anything. So, in real life, The light might flicker or it might even go out, but you have to find it again. A mindset shift doesn't make you immune to negativity, it just helps you become more aware of it and respond to that differently. Now, lastly, talking about the third one. So, many people think that shifting your mindset will make life feel peaceful all the time. But the truth is that life will always throw challenges at us, and we have to find our way. So, what changes is you. Like, whenever you're trying to shift your mindset, the changes that you have to see or observe is yourself. A real mindset shift helps you build the inner strength so that you can find hard times without falling apart. So, you can face your hard times. And it's not about having a perfect life, but it's about learning how to handle with more clarity and confidence. And talking about a mindset shift, I would like to share with you an example of a client I worked on around a year back. So I worked with a young woman who always felt like she was living under her sister's shadow. And her sister was constantly praised by her parents, and she seemed to have it all figured out, while the client felt like she could never match up to her sister. And so, in order to try and win her family's approval, she did a lot of things. She even chose the same course as her sister so that, yeah, the parents might think, oh, wow, I have both the daughters who are smart and not the elder one who is the only smart one. So eventually, the pressure built up with the client, and she started self harming herself. And I asked her that, why do you self, like, not exactly why, but what makes you feel that self harm is helping you? So she said that whenever she harmed herself, all the overthinking and the negative thoughts that she had in her mind calmed down, and because the focus was on the pain. So in therapy, we slowly started to question her beliefs, and she had to be like her sister in order to be loved and valued. We spoke about everything, and with time, she began to see that she had her own path. We found out what does she like and what would she like to go ahead with. She shifted her course, and right now, whenever I meet her, I know that she is a completely changed person. And that is when the healing really begins, when your choices start coming from self worth instead of seeking other people's approval. Now, the next topic. So, how does hypnotherapy rewire negative thought patterns? And all of us know that our mind has two parts, one is conscious, and the second one is subconscious. So the conscious mind occupies around 10 to 12%, and it is mainly related to logic, decision making, analysis. And the subconscious mind, it occupies around 88 to 90%, which stores all the experiences, habits. It does our involuntary work. And when we are talking about the subconscious mind, so whatever information enters the subconscious mind has the tendency to accept it as the truth. But for the information to enter the subconscious mind, it has to pass through a critical filter. So the critical filter is your conscious mind. Your conscious mind doesn't let everything pass on to it easily. So, what hypnotherapy does is that it relaxes the conscious mind, and that is when your subconscious mind is extremely active. So, whatever suggestions you give to your subconscious mind, it is very likely that your subconscious mind will accept it. And as I said earlier, that subconscious mind has the tendency to accept everything as the truth. So, whenever we are talking about the conscious and the subconscious mind, generally, whenever there is a conflict between these two, that is when the problems arise. So, for example, if I want to wake up early in the morning, So my conscious mind tells me that I want to wake up early, but my subconscious mind tells me that if you wake up early, you're going to feel sleepy and lethargic. So my brain has this connection, my mind has this connection that waking up early means feeling lethargic and sleepy. Now, in order to wake up early, my conscious mind is going to decide that I want to wake up early for XYZ reason. But my subconscious mind is not ready to accept it because of the previous link. So, what we can do and what hypnotherapy does is that it during the hypnosis, your subconscious mind is active, so it will try to break the link between waking up early and feeling lethargic, and it will create a new link between waking up early and feeling refreshed, feeling energetic. So that is how hypnotherapy works wonders, and it is also very much useful to reframe limiting beliefs that we have about ourselves, and we can plant empowering suggestions. And also hypnosis is very much helpful, especially for relapse, because when we are talking about relapse, for example smoking or drinking, we have this connection that if I smoke or drink I might feel pleasure. But if using hypnotherapy, you connect that smoking and drinking is like a burnt toast or it makes me puke, then you are automatically going to stop doing that. So the result of hypnotherapy is that you have fewer mental blocks, we have more emotional freedom, we have better alignment between what we want and what we believe that we deserve. So we don't let that anything control you. You know that we have control over ourselves. Coming to the next slide. So what do hypnotherapy sessions feel like? Now over here, let us take the example of I feel anxious when I'm alone and I want. So this is my current situation, that I feel anxious when I'm alone. And the next situation, the outcome that I want is that I want to feel calm and confident by myself. So, how hypnotherapy works is that, so, as we spoke about, that your current situation is I feel anxious and scared when I'm alone. So, the person has fear of being alone. Now, whenever we are talking about fears, we are usually born only with two fears. The first one is fear of falling, and the second one is fear of noises. So, apart from these two fears, most of the fears that we have, those are the fears that we have learned through our past experiences, and therefore these fears can be unlearned. So when we are talking about this current situation, in order to move from the current situation to the outcome, we will have to take certain steps. So these steps are what we call tasks. So we divide these tasks into two parts. The first are the tasks that we are able to do or are already doing. The second type is the task that we are not able to do. So whenever we are talking about the task that we are not able to do, it can be mainly because of three reasons. The first is lack of skills and capabilities. So we feel that we lack the skills and capabilities in order to complete a particular task. Then the second one is lack of resources. Maybe I might not have enough money to do this, which in turn is stopping me from doing a particular task. So when we are talking about these two, so lack of skills and capabilities. Skills and capabilities are something that we can develop over time, and resources are something that we can arrange for. Now coming to the mental state. So whenever we are talking about this mental state that is stopping us from doing a particular task, so we term it as a hindrance because it is stopping us from doing the task. So what is a hindrance? A hindrance can be anything, a thought, a behavior, an emotion, or a positive intention. So in therapy, whenever we are talking about this hindrance, we can motivate ourselves to do the task. Now, when we are talking about motivation, we have two types of motivation. One is conscious motivation. So we are consciously trying ourselves to motivate by maybe verbally or external motivation. Now, at times, conscious motivation is not enough because, like we spoke previously, that my mind must have some separate connection, some deep rooted connection with the particular task, and that is why I'm not able to do the task. So I might have to work on the subconscious level to create that motivation. And again, that is when hypnotherapy comes in. So whenever I have this fear that I feel anxious and scared whenever I'm alone, I might try telling myself through conscious motivation that I'll be okay and I can do this, I can be alone. But my subconscious might be telling me something else. So, with the help of hypnotherapy, I'm going to calm my subconscious down and I will tell my subconscious that I want to feel calm, safe, and confident even when I am by myself. So, that is how the whole process works. As I said, that the conscious mind can say that I am safe and nothing is wrong. That is what the external conscious motivation is. And my subconscious motivation is if I'm alone, something bad will happen. So, hypnotherapy gently helps the subconscious detach fear from being alone and attach calm, safety, and confidence to the alone time. Now, let's talk about the practical tools. So, what are some practical tools that can help for mindset shift? So, the first and the very common one is journaling. And I know that a lot of people tell that you have to journal. But what is different in this? So, once you become aware of your negative thought pattern, we have to write it down. Then, once you have written the negative thought pattern, let's challenge the pattern. Is it really true? Is this happening with me right now, or this is something that I'm just contemplating? And try to reframe it. So, whenever we are talking about journaling, one of the best way to do it is at night because at night you know what your day was like and you know all the negative thoughts that you might have had during the day. So ask yourself, what negative thought pattern showed up today? And once you write that, how can I reframe it? Over here, as I've stated the example of I'll fail. So that is one negative thought that I had during the day. Now I'm going to reframe it as I'm still learning what works and that is okay. So this is a way of telling myself that it is okay. Then the when we do this daily, it increases our awareness and it also helps in building the habit. So next time whenever, like as I said earlier, that these negative thought patterns are automatic and they rise rapidly. So next time whenever you have these thought patterns, you immediately realize that, oh my god, this is what I'm thinking and this is what I have to do. So you know what you have to do and you know what you don't have to do in order to overcome this. Coming to the second one, mental push-ups. So challenge yourself. What is a mental push-up? Suppose that you're feeling very lazy today. So challenge yourself by going for a walk. Do opposite of what your negative emotion is telling you to do. Example, I am feeling sad and I might feel like I want to watch a sad movie or listen to a sad song. Don't do that. Do the opposite. Maybe dance to a happy song or watch some light feel good movie that is going to lift up your sadness. So over here the goal isn't trying to be perfect, but it is taking tiny steps in order to reach the goal that we want to achieve. Then talking about weekly balancing. So whenever we are planning our week, let's plan our week in these three proportion. Like the first one is pleasurable, second one is productive, and the third one is mastery. So pleasurable means that we are adding activities that we enjoy. Example, going for a walk, listening to music, going to the gym, or any other hobbies that you might enjoy. Now, the second one, the productive one. So, we add productive activities like cleaning your room, working, studying. Then, the third is mastery. So, mastery means something that gives you a sense of growth, a sense of achievement. So, over here, we can add anything like learning or practicing a particular skill that you wanted to develop since a long time but weren't finding a time to do so. So, whenever we are, I call this as a PPM. So, whenever we are creating the timetable for our week, let's divide our work into this PPM equally so that this is a perfect way to grow grow as a person for emotional and mental wellness. So whenever we are talking about goals or setting our weekly timetable, it is very important that we set realistic goals. So by realistic goals, I mean that something that is achievable. Unrealistic goals often lead to guilt. I might not be able to do a particular task that I have written in my journal, and I might feel guilty that, oh my God, I'm a bad person and I'm not supposed I couldn't do this. So that is why I tell people to set realistic goals. And it is very important to start small. So whenever I'm talking about mastery, so not just mastery, whenever I have clients with depression, I know that it is very difficult for them to even take a bath. So I just like, even if they take one single bath in a week, it is like an achievement for them. So starting small is also very important because that is how we can move ahead. It is not necessary that, I'm going to take bath every day because it's very important. We can start small and we can then slowly progress ahead. Then affirmations. A lot of people tell us to, say affirmations, look at the mirror, do this, do that. But I don't know. I feel that affirmations never work for me. And why is that? So over here, one of the main reason why affirmations don't work is that affirmations only work when your subconscious isn't fighting them. So I might not be rich, but if I keep telling myself that I am rich, I am rich, I am rich, my subconscious mind is going to tell me, bro, you are not rich. Why are you telling yourself that you are rich? So, whenever we are making affirmations or building affirmations for ourselves, let us try to build an affirmations that don't have anything that is going to contradict your subconscious mind. For example, I am rich can be, I am learning and applying everything that will make me rich. Over here, my mind doesn't have any point to fight this. Then whenever, people always tell us to follow a particular thing for 21 days. So why is it that, why do they say that? So when we or when we say affirmations for 21 days, after 21 days, research says that, new neural pathways are developed in our brain and they help in rewiring the mind. So that is why if we say affirmations for 21 days, your subconscious mind is going to accept it as the truth. So let us compare this with a garden. So whenever we are saying an affirmations, just saying it once isn't enough. Just like sowing a seed in the garden is not enough. You need to water it daily. You need to take care of it. You need to see if any insects or any bugs are harming the plants. Similarly, saying affirmation once or just building them isn't enough. You need to say it to yourself every day and believe in it. Now, the next one is solo time. So, for this solo time, take at least 10 minutes every day. How I said earlier that sitting in stillness is very important. So, take at least 10 minutes every day and sit with yourself. No phone, no distractions, no thinking about, oh, what my child must be doing. Just take that time out for yourself, observe your breath, and just calm yourself down. Gently breathe. This is your mental reset button. So it's like realizing and making sure that you are aware of everything around you, which in turn is going to make you more aware about your negative thought patterns, because alone time is when a lot of things come up in our mind, and slowly, if we notice it, we are going to be aware about everything that's going. Now the last one, mindfulness made simple. So a lot of people say that I'm finding it very difficult to be mindful and to meditate. So what is the first step that I can do? The first step for mindfulness is start slowly. Like whenever you are engaging in any particular activity, make sure that you are enjoying that activity. For example, when I am showering, notice whenever you are showering, notice how the water is feeling on your body, the temperature of the water, the scent of the soap, how runny the soap is on your body, or even when you're cooking, how are you moving the knife? How are the vegetables? How is the texture of the vegetable? How is the shape of the dices that you have cut? Everything. So, this is how you maintain mindfulness. We engage all our senses into that particular task that we are doing. So, this helps us to stay in the present moment. And in a way, we are not thinking about our past or our future. So, coming to this topic, what is one thing about our mind? Your mind believes what you tell it. So, it is like a toddler. You know how you are very, if you meet a very uh, young toddler, a kid, and you tell him that you are a bad boy, that kid will immediately believe that I am a bad boy. So, your mind is like a toddler. Whatever you tell it, it's going to believe it, whether it's true or not. So if you keep telling yourself that you are not good enough and uh, you are a failure, so you'll start believing it that maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I am a failure. And but if you tell yourself that you are loved, you are capable no matter what, so your mind might believe that yes, that is true. And over here also affirmations come into place, that whatever you tell your mind, it is going to believe it. So our subconscious mind works in that way. And again, repetition is very important. So that is what rewires your mind. And start small. Speak kindly, it changes everything. So for someone who is stuck in a negative cycle, like negative thought cycle, what do I do? How do I start? So one of the most important thing that we need to understand, that all the negative thought patterns, stress, anxiety comes from our survival instincts. So it's your brain's way of protecting you, trying to keep you safe. And your mind is trying to cope up, it's trying to adapt, and it's trying to survive. So instead of fighting these thoughts, try to understand them. Every time you catch yourself stuck in a negative pattern, pause and use this framework. I feel, about, and when. So, for example, I am somebody who is not able to eat healthy food, and which makes me feel guilty and disappointed in myself, and I have a lot of negative thoughts regarding that. So, I might say that I feel guilty about not being able to control myself when I eat junk food. So this framework, it helps you become aware of what you are feeling. It helps to recognize the trigger behind that feeling. And it also helps us in tracing where it is really coming from. Maybe it's a past experience, an old fear, or a deep belief. So once you start seeing the full picture, something powerful happens. Healing and change finally become possible for us, and you begin to respond to life instead of reacting. Stop blaming yourself for how you feel and start guiding yourself gently through it. Similarly to how we spoke about the dark room, we are not trying to run away from it, but we are trying to face it. We are trying to face it gently, guiding ourselves. And remember that we don't have to fix everything today. We can just start by noticing, and that is a small step, but also that is enough. That small step is enough. So we finally come to the end of our topic. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me, and thank you for taking out time. I would also like to thank Keep Calm to give me this opportunity to share my knowledge with you. And one last quote that I would like to share is: you are not your thoughts, you are not alone, and you are capable of rewiring everything you once believed and you are capable of rewiring everything you once believed was permanent. And I already shared you how we can do that. Thank you.